Co-leader is Donald Trump.
We are out of time at the table.
The fact that you talk to women this way is ridiculous.
You just talked about a black woman that way.
In what way?
For
She
being
doesn't
here at
know
the
what a
table.
woman is.
Thank you for
She doesn't
watching
know what a
at
woman
home.
This is so bleak, man. I'm Brad Polumbo, and welcome back to the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, my daily show where I take on the craziest ideas from across our politics and across the internet, all from a center-right, independent perspective. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing and sticking around, and regardless, do hit that like button and do comment with your thoughts as we go along. I do read the comments, and I pick a few to respond to in every episode. Now, up first today, we've got to watch a CNN segment that featured Republicans, it featured woke academics, it featured a supposedly neutral and unbiased journalist, and the way it went down was bleak. There's no other word for it, but it really did kind of sap me of hope for America's future and remind me of everything that's wrong with our politics. Let's take a listen to the first clip from the CNN segment where they argue over the pronunciation of Kamala Harris's name. The main voices you'll hear from in this clip are the Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace and the progressive professor Michael Eric Dyson. Let's take a listen.
Kamala's.
You had it right. You almost got it.
I will say Kamala's name any way that I want to.
No, but you mispronounced her and you also misjudged her.
I just did, and I'll do it again.
mispronouncing her name.
That's a refusal to acknowledge her humanity.
If I purposely mispronounced your name, that would not be appropriate.
Policies are Joe Biden's policies. She owns
You're
it.
normalizing that kind of viciousness, man.
33 times.
But it's the
she was the
disrespect.
deciding vote the vice on Joe Biden's bills. She was 33 times the deciding vote on Joe Biden's bills in the Senate.
And let me just say this, because this Congresswoman is a wonderful human being, but when you disrespect Kamala Harris by saying you will call her whatever you want, I know you don't intend it to be that way. That's the history and legacy of white disregard for the humanity of black people.
So now you're calling me racist.
I didn't say. I just said you weren't a
BS.
racist.
That is complete
No, you don't have to intend racism to accomplish
you are
it.
intending that I am
Your disrespect
racist,
of Kamala
and
Harris
that is
part and parcel of a
why
tradition
can't you
of disrespect.
Why
It's
can't you just,
offensive,
Congresswoman,
and it's
why can't you just,
offensive.
I'm not calling you a racist.
No,
I'm
you
saying
are.
what the
You
practice
are.
is
You
racist.
are. You absolutely are.
The practice is
let me get
disrespecting. No, what's disgusting
That
is
is
your
disgusting.
disrespect of her.
Professor.
This gentleman said,
You know what?
I didn't know her name.
Disgusting
He's
to
trying
women
to do
is
it.
her disrespect of women. She doesn't know what a woman is. And if 25 years ago,
White women don't have the ability to tell black women who paid the price of blood to make this country what it is to tell them they're not real women.
25
They
years
care
ago,
for your babies
25
and
years ago,
respected
I
your
became
humanity.
the first woman to graduate from the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina. I
So call her
fought my
name
way
right.
through it.
So pronounce her name
blood,
right.
sweat,
Let
and
me
tears.
actually
So pronounce her name
and
right.
Kamala Harris, if
Kamala,
I were a man,
you said
I
this
will
We don't
say
call you Nancy
any word that I
Nancy.
want.
It's
Come on,
Kamala.
it's Kamala.
You're doing this on purpose,
That's
Congresswoman.
disrespectful.
Just a second.
If,
You can't expect people to
if
respect
a
your
man put
service
on
if
a
you don't
skirt
respect
and walked
hers.
that stage 25 years ago, she
You're a
would have
white
said
woman
she would have
disrespecting a
taken
black
that
woman. That is
achievement away from
problematic.
women.
Professor
That's
Dyson, let me get in
disgusting.
here.
So I'm sorry for making you listen to that. I know it was a rough clip, and I don't blame anybody who wanted to put it on 2X or skip ahead. But I have plenty of criticism for both sides of this exchange. First and foremost, I really have no idea what Congresswoman Nancy Mace is trying to do in this clip. It's totally fine that she initially mispronounced Kamala's name as Kamala just briefly and then corrected herself or then recorrected herself, and the others were like, oh yeah, it's Kamala. And that I don't blame her for. If anyone were to attack her for that, I would think they were being unfair. You know, we all just misspeak sometimes, whatever. But then to go on and say that I will say her name however I want, I will intentionally mispronounce it, is just disrespectful and unnecessary and rude. It's just obstinate behavior that coarsens our discourse for no reason, while accomplishing nothing. In fact, it just derailed the whole segment where she was about to make substantive critiques of Kamala Harris, and instead derailed it into a total cul-de-sac that is not good for Republicans. And on the other side, the way this woke professor and some of the Democratic commentators on this panel responded to this was so hyperbolic and over the top. I agree with them that it's disrespectful and unnecessary and not okay to intentionally mispronounce people's names. But to say it's evidence of white supremacy or of a complete disregard for the humanity of black people is quite the exaggeration exaggeration. You might be stretching a little bit there, babe. In the same way, making one congresswoman's mispronunciation of someone's name into a historical analysis of white women versus black women that projects all this stuff from the past onto today's demographics in this grandiose but collectivist and identitarian way is truly absurd, my dude. And then, of course, there's just the screaming over each other and the constant interrupting and the inability to actually listen to somebody with a different point of view or to hear criticism and take feedback without just getting defensive and doubling down, and the total hot mess that was the moderation of this discussion. So in so many ways, I just thought this clip perfectly encapsulates everything that's wrong with modern politics in America. And I want to play a second clip from the exchange as well, when Congresswoman Nancy Mace was asked about President Trump's recent comments questioning whether Kamala Harris was really black.
Trump injecting Vice President Harris's race and then suggesting that she's not actually black. Why is he doing that? Should he stop?
Well, I mean,
yes or no?
I didn't hear him say it. I didn't hear what he said about her race. I am not going to weigh in on her race. As a woman,
he did say it.
Okay, well, as a woman, I want to weigh in.
She turned black, he said. He said she was raised Indian. Now she was Indian, all he knew. Now she turned black.
She's a mixed race, She's a mixed race.
He said that to the National Association of Black Journalists.
Right.
He went to, and he said at the same event where he said he'd done more for black people than any president in history.
I guess here's the thing.
When he was president, wages for women were better than they've been in a long time. Wages for blacks were better than they've been in a long time.
The lowest black unemployment rate in history. It happened under Joe Biden.
He
did a lot of good.
Let me just finish this to both of you.
From all walks of the country.
This doesn't take that much courage, honestly, to just say that was out of bounds.
I don't know what he said. I didn't see
He
the
said that she turned black. He questioned whether she was really black. I don't think that's that hard to say. That's out of bounds. Can you say that?
I mean, I didn't say it, and I would not say it.
Just say yes.
I just
Guys,
we are connected to your inability to pronounce her name.
We are out of time.
It's a very.
We are out of time.
It's a cult. They won't say anything that goes against the cult. Yes, you are. You are a cult member.
Are you kidding me?
It's a cult.
I have a diverse district.
If you won't speak out against the cult member,
name.
you're a cult. The cult leader is Donald Trump.
We are out of time
The
at the
fact that
table.
you talk to women this way is ridiculous.
You just talked about a black woman that way.
In what
Thank
way?
you for
She
being
doesn't
here
know
at
what
the
a woman
table.
is.
Thank you for
She doesn't know
watching
what a
at
woman
home.
So I already gave you guys my take on the whole situation where Trump questioned whether Kamala Harris was really black, saying she'd only ever stressed her Indian identity and now she's suddenly decided she's black. I told you why I don't think that's accurate and I don't think it's an appropriate thing to say. But no matter how you feel, whether you thought Trump's comments were okay or not, that's actually a different question than exactly what happened in this clip, which is where Congresswoman Nancy Mace pretended she had never heard those comments or had no idea what was being discussed. There are only two explanations for that. Either a sitting US Congresswoman doesn't read the news, doesn't follow national politics closely, because that was a huge story like 2 weeks ago. Or, and I think this is the more likely option, she's lying. She's pleading ignorance, pretending she hasn't seen the comments to avoid daring to criticize even gently Donald Trump. Because many Republicans, it's become something of a cult of personality around Donald Trump. That's not to say Trump supporters are in a cult. I don't agree with that assertion, but it's a cult of personality in that everybody's super loyal to him. And there's not a lot of honest feedback when he does something wrong from people in the party because they're afraid that he'll lash out at them or that the base will get upset with them. But to cop out like this is not something I respect. Either defend the comments and we can have the conversation, or admit you think the comments are wrong. But don't do this weaselly thing where you try to pretend you never heard them when we all know you did. So I actually agree with Abby Phillips in this clip when she says, shouldn't take a lot of courage to just give a milquetoast criticism. Yeah, Trump shouldn't have said that. But if politicians in the Democratic and Republican parties lack one thing, it is moral courage. It is the ability to buck their party, which, to be fair to Nancy Mace, she's done on a number of occasions that I appreciate. But in this instance, she was not willing to do so, and that was disappointing to me. And I have to say, I really didn't appreciate the Republican identity politics way she responded to the pushback. How dare you speak that way to a woman? They're just criticizing you. You said something lame and they're pushing back on you. Pulling the woman card, I mean, Sounds like something a woke feminist would do. Very, very lame, if you ask me. I don't agree with what they said about MAGA being a cult, but I promise you they'd say the same thing to a male Trump supporter who was sitting across from them. Playing the victim card is lame when progressives do it, but it's doubly lame when Republicans do it because they're the ones who are at least supposed to know better. And then again, the chaotic way they bickered like children and wouldn't stop talking even as the anchor tried to close out the segment. This is why people don't watch cable news. This is why the numbers are declining over time across all the networks, because it's become so toxic and so childish and nobody knows how to have an honest, good faith conversation anymore. So yeah, I'm sorry for making you guys sit through that with me, but I did think it was an interesting segment in a depressing way in how representative it sadly is for just how much of a shit show our politics have become. You can let me know what you think in the comments below, and do remember to hit that like button while you're at it. And up next, it's time for Brad versus TikTok, my daily segment where I take on the craziest ideas from the Clock app.
Pronoun of the day is slug.
Today, we're taking a look at one TikToker explain why she cut off her friend because her boyfriend likes America and Trump?
Do what you want, but I do cut people off because of politics. I do. And I do it again and again and again and again. And again and again and again and again. Let me tell you about the time that I did this, right? In 2016, I was friends with this girl who got proposed to by her boyfriend, and so she was getting married, and she said, Kuru, would you like to be in the wedding? I said, absolutely, I'd love to be in your wedding. Let's find a time so I can actually meet your fiance, because I hadn't met him yet. So I go to her house, meet the fiance, hated it. Hated every second of it. And, I didn't say nothing. I was just like, bad vibes. So I go home, I get on Facebook, and I was like, let me do some investigation. So I go on his Facebook page. Yeah, I was right. Bad vibes. Trump everywhere. American flag all over.
American flag?
I'm talking every rhetoric that Trump was spreading was on that man's page. I call my girl up. Hello? Do you know that your man is on Beyonce's internet acting an ass? Did
Beyonce's
you know?
internet?
Are you not aware? Are y'all not friends on Facebook? When were you gonna tell me that your man is racist?
Oh?
When were you gonna do that? Like, what? So I had to be like, sorry girl, can't be in your wedding. And she was like, oh, he means well. Can't come. Prepare the others. I'm not gonna be there. And then we never talked again. And that was the first time in my life I had befriended a white woman. We're not gonna talk about the second time. Okay, bye.
Babe, did you seriously just suggest that not even just the Trump stuff, but just the American flag, posting positively about the American flag is like something only racists do? Y'all need to touch grass. Some of y'all on TikTok are way, way too online and just become totally out of touch with reality as a result. Normal Americans who are both Democrats and Republicans still appreciate the American flag and fly the American flag. And it's also really wrong to assume that somebody is a racist just because they support Trump. Actually, most people have good intentions. And in fact, millions of Black and Hispanic people have either in the past or in this upcoming election cast a vote for Donald Trump. Are they all just racists too? Like, obviously not. It's a very simplistic, trite, and childish way to view the world. Everyone that disagrees with me is just a racist. Or it could actually be that they're misinformed, they're misguided, that approached issues from a different starting point and come out on the other side of a complex debate. But no, you'd rather just retreat into a childish worldview where it's just the good guys versus the bad guys, even though real life has so many more shades of gray than that. And in a sense, my first response is like, all right, well, these people dodged a bullet by not having you in their life because you're clearly the toxic person. But in another sense, I just feel bad for everyone involved because it's really sad that you have defined people down to just who they vote for. I do agree that our politics have some relation to our morals and our values, but people are so much more than just that one dimension. I have friends and family in my life who are totally different than me politically, some of whom I can have good conversations about it and they're open-minded, and some of whom we really can't talk about those things. But either way, they still have many things about them that I think are valuable and wonderful as people that I can appreciate and connect with, even if we're different in one specific way. Additionally, siloing yourself off from people on the other side is a great great way to ensure that you just become more radical and more out of touch, and that you don't actually maintain sight of what the other side actually believes, and therefore you struggle to actually articulate your points of view in a way that can convince anyone. So if you just want to go hang out in a total echo chamber all the time, that's fine, but you are not going to advance your side's cause whatsoever just by doing that. But yeah, more broadly, I just think it's sad to treat people like this, but it is a sentiment that a lot of people have. And I've seen Republicans do it as well, cut off their kids or threaten their kids if they vote for Kamala or other stuff like this. And it's just a really close-minded and unfortunate way to approach life. Plus, at the end, the little thing about white women is essentially implying like, well, that's what I get for talking to white women. It's just bizarre to me how TikTok thinks it's okay to engage in this kind of racial essentialism and this kind of blanket approach of taking one individual's actions and suggesting it's somehow representative of a whole group. That's only allowed when it comes to white people. In any other situation, they would honestly correctly and rightly call that racist, call that stereotyping, call that discriminatory. But when it's white women, it's okay, I guess. I mean, it's just more proof of how toxic the TikTok brain rot has become on all of these identity-based issues. But if you take anything from this segment, from my message, it's that people are more than just their political identity, and there's aspects of good and bad in all of us that we should be willing to take from and connect with, despite whatever differences we may have. Let me know what you think in the comments below, especially about the American flag thing. I'm still not over that. And do remember to hit that like button. And now I'll read a few of your comments before we wrap up this episode. One person writes, Brad, you should go bald. No, I think I would look terrible. I have too big a forehead and too big a head for that, my friend. Another person says, in quotes, something I said, even people who are completely supportive of the rights of transgender adults to live however will make them happy, as I am. And then they say in response to that quote from me, oh, so people can do whatever they want as long as it makes them happy and they're adults. All right, gotcha. I mean, yeah, as long as they're not directly hurting someone else or violating someone else's rights, yes, that is my belief system. You have quoted me accurately. Congratulations. Another person says, listening to Brad's podcast at the gym is probably the best decision I've made. The news and clips he shares is perfect rage fuel to go harder in my workouts. Thank you, Brad. I love that, and I'm all about promoting health and fitness, so good for you for working out, and I'm glad that my content helps you get through those workouts and gives you the rage. I guess I didn't think of it as having that effect, but if it helps, power to you. Another person says, I encourage everyone who thinks price and rent controls the work to move to New York City and see how the cost of living has been helped there. Yeah, guys, I mean, a huge percentage of New York City's rental market is rent controlled. Yet somehow, they still have a mass unaffordability crisis. Another person says, appreciate you talking about stuff like this. As a girl who took testosterone as a minor, it hurts my heart to see people support minors transitioning. Knowing there are so many boys and girls who will grow up to regret these irreversible decisions, just as I did, is so sad. Well, thank you for watching, and thank you for sharing your experience. My heart does go out to people like you, because I do believe that you were failed by the system, and that system has been upheld and kept in place for too long, in part because of a lack of media scrutiny and a lack of people willing to raise the inconvenient questions and call this out because they were scared of pushback or getting canceled or whatever. That has all resulted in this. Finally, we're starting to see sense on this issue come across America, but it's been far too long in coming, and I really do. My heart goes out to people like you who fell through the cracks in the meantime. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, and do hit that like button before you go, and comment with your thoughts on today's content. I do read the comments, and I will pick a couple to respond to on Monday. One last request, please do take a second if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to rate and review the show, and maybe share it with somebody who you know who might like my series, want to become a part of this community, because sharing with people you know is one of the best ways to grow a podcast. And with that, we'll talk again next week.